All right, let's talk about stress today, and specifically about 8 hidden reasons why you're so stressed these days, and maybe you don't even realize it, because these hidden reasons are sort of not your typical day-to-day stress of work, financial, personal finances, relationships, stuff like that, but these are deeper reasons that perhaps are floating somewhere lower in your subconscious. And these are more pervasive forces that make us anxious, and I want to talk about them today. And in the end, I will also provide some just temporary solutions how to deal with them, because in and of itself you can't address them directly. These are things that are being pushed on you, pressed on you by forces that are much stronger than yourself, than just one individual. So I'm going to give you some things that I learned in my life that can help you mitigate the stress, but they are by no means they're going to save you directly. In many cases, these solutions seem like a bandage on what seems to be a bullet wound inflicted by the world and the society that we live in. So don't expect any miracles. All right, so the first reason why I'm so stressed these days is propaganda. And this propaganda is coming from not only the mainstream media as it used to, but it's also coming from the alternative news sources and sources of information like podcasts. And it seems like there is no escaping it, and the propaganda is now so pervasive that the information space is saturated with it, and it creates a fatigue in many people that I can't trust almost anything I hear, and therefore I'm going to tune out, or I'm going to latch onto this ideology that makes sense to me on the surface because it just makes the world seem simpler. You know, the problems of today's world are really complicated, and there's many aspects to them, and many people don't have the time or the energy. Most people, I would say, don't have the time or the energy to dig into these problems deeply. And because the information is so saturated with nonsense and misinformation, it is also very hard to sift through to see what the actual truth is. And this creates a dissociation in you and a fatigue that it is much easier for you to not engage with politics or the civil life anymore, and you tune out. And I used to think that the alternative media had a lot of prospects, but now I see that this was a false hope, because many of these podcasts and many of these alternative news sources have a bias of their own, and they usually don't even fact check. They don't have any editorial board, no oversight, and they sometimes do it by accident, but in many cases they do it on purpose. All right, the second reason is the lack of trust. And one of the reasons there is such a lack of trust in the society is that in democratic countries, the institutions we used to rely on are now failing. And they're failing because, on one hand, there are bad faith actors who are actively trying to sabotage them and render them useless by bending the laws, destroying the institutions from within. But on the other hand, there's also the reason that these institutions are not well equipped to deal with the radical problems that we have today in our society. The pressures put upon people are very high these days, and it seems that these democratic institutions are failing to protect people and failing to help them in any meaningful way. So people look at that and see that here's this state that demands taxes of me, that takes up so much space, not only just the media space, but literally so many jobs, and yet it is unable to do anything for me. It is unable to help me in any meaningful way. And at the same time, the bad faith actors are pushing a narrative of, see, the institution can't do anything for you, let's dismantle it, let's just destroy it completely, which gives you even less in the end. And this creates the lack of trust. If I can't trust the government, then who can I trust? And since the information space is saturated with misinformation, you are left behind to your own devices in many cases. And it also isn't being aided by so much polarization that we have in society, where even the basic facts of life are being challenged by so many people and political parties. And so this again creates confusion, it creates mistrust, and this is what creates another pressure for you to be stressed. Now, the third factor I want to talk about is the wealth inequality and power imbalance. Now, this is one of the main reasons why you're stressed, and this is the probably root cause of all the other things that I talked about. The thing that you need to understand is, in today's world, with this wealth inequality and power imbalance as it is now, you have very little control over what's going to happen to you. And sometimes you have almost zero control if you're a working class or a poor person. You have almost zero control over your life. It's getting harder to influence politics that have been almost completely bought out by billionaires and oligarchs. The education that you receive is also being controlled. But where this control is exerted the most is the workplace. You have very little control over your working conditions, whether you're going to be kept as an employee. Higher and higher standards are being put on employees to produce more for less. The social security is being dismantled, and this creates another power imbalance, because some people are getting much, much richer, while the working class and increasingly the middle class is getting exploited in this way. And this creates an anxiety in you that you have lost control over your surroundings. When you realize how little influence you have, you can feel helpless and stressed. And it seems that the profits are becoming the highest priority, the wages are stagnating, the benefits shrink, the job security disappears, and you're being forced to keep chasing this ever-moving target and feeling the burnout on you. I can't stress enough how stress-inducing it is that you realize that you control so very little in your life and that you can be fired at any moment. This leads me to the fourth point, which the lack of control would not be a problem if you had the safety of the community. And the fourth problem is that the community and stability is eroding. There used to be places where people gathered face to face, and you belonged to a group of people that you could call when there was a problem, and you could rely on them, whether it was the church or it was the club, it was a group of friends, it was the extended family. There always used to be somebody that you could call and ask for help when the economic situation was bad. But since the technology is proceeding so rapidly, it seems that even this is eroding and people are meeting face-to-face less. And the communities that relied on day-to-day, face-to-face contact are now disappearing as well. So, since the pace of the technological development is so high, you need to change, or you often change jobs very frequently. You change where you live frequently. People used to live in one place for a very long time and only seldom move, but nowadays you are almost constantly on the move. Your jobs change very rapidly. Your home changes. You change address, and the labor market is set up in a way that you are forced to do it. You need to keep up with the insane pace of changes and development. And in order to do so, you have very little time for yourself anymore, for your hobbies, for meeting people face to face. So this creates another pressure on you to perform, but at the same time, you don't have the support network that you used to have in the past. So this destruction of traditional communities is what's contributing to your stress. Now, the fifth reason why you're so stressed these days is globalization and outsourcing, the endless competition. The companies can hire cheap labor in the global south, creating fierce competition. And if you can't produce or produce as much or as cheaply as the ruling class wants you to produce, you are fired. You're let out of your job. You're just replaced. There's the pressure on you to improve your skills constantly, to educate yourself, and all of this on your own dime. You're being forced to keep adding more and more value at work. Specialized knowledge, continuous training, new certifications, and all of this is often at your own expense, at your own time. It used to be that there was some on-the-job training, but this is, of course, being cancelled because of making more profits. So even this is losing. And even after all that effort, the raises are minimal and the job stability remains precocious. Stress skyrockets when you realize how easily you can be replaced. And this is not going to be better, in my opinion. This is going to be worse because of the rise of AI and automation. The automation of human thinking. And that's the sixth point that I want to talk about. So the sixth reason why we're so struggling these days and why we're more stressed is the rise of AI. Now, this is the area where I've been working actively for 2.5 years now. And I know how awesome this technology can be, how revolutionary it's going to be, but at the same time I worry because I feel like in the current configuration of the society it is going to be used to squeeze more profit from people, because not only we have automated manual labor with the Industrial Revolution, but now we're automating the thinking process itself. And this is going to be so disruptive that, in my opinion, millions of people are going to lose their jobs because the job was just too repetitive, or the cognitive process used in this job was consumed by the AI, because the AI systems are now able to do some thinking, some decision making, some control over the task that they execute. So this is going to be adding another pressure on you to perform, to learn, to retrain, and even that might not be enough. And so this is another stress added to you. This, of course, is going to create an enormous wealth, because automated thinking is going to bring an enormous value in so many areas. It's going to streamline so many processes, but this wealth is again being held by just a tiny minority of people. And since they already have in their possession the brain itself, the advanced AI, you can think of what they would do with this advanced AI if it was solely in their control. Because imagine if they suddenly thought of even better AI model that can do so many more tasks. They're of course going to keep it for themselves and see for themselves first what this AI is capable of, and only then probably giving you a worse version of this system. So it's not about having the AI to contribute to humanity, but what can the AI do for the ruling class? And this is where you need to shift your thinking. This is what's going to happen. Those who will possess this technology first are going to use it to manipulate the world first, to get into a position to get into a position of strength, and only then are they going to give you a little bit of crumbs so that you can play with. So this rise of AI not only intensifies the feeling that the world is changing too rapidly and that we're actively approaching something that will be reminiscent of singularity, but also it creates pressure on you to perform more, and the pressure on your job. This is going to build another pressure on the labor market. So here's the reasons, and now what can we do about it? Now, first thing, if you're feeling stressed and if these things that I said resonate with you, is to take care of yourself. You need to take care of number one, and that means if you're already feeling stressed, you need to focus on the basics: food, exercise, sleep. These are the three things that you need to get under control and work on them every day to make yourself feel better. It doesn't matter if the world around you is falling apart, which it is, but you need to take care of number one. That's absolutely essential for you to do. Only when you feel relaxed and sort of stable, you can try to engage with the world again and try to change things. It doesn't suit you if you're stressed and unbalanced, if you're going crazy. You can't really contribute much, and you're doing yourself a disservice. So first of all, as a first point, just take care of yourself, and only then look around you and think, how do I want to deal with this situation? That's the point number two. You need to address it with clarity and with awareness. These are things that are much bigger than you, and you probably can't stop them. You yourself, one singular person, cannot stop all these things. So what you need to do is think very deeply about where you are and how you can either escape it, fight it, or accept it. And these are the three things that you can do. There's very little you can do outside of these three things. So look around the world, look at your resources, look at the resources at your disposal, and think what you can do. The third thing that can help you is find a community. Find people who think similar to you, who have similar problems, similar values, and then try to fit into that community as best you can by helping, by sharing, by being there for each other. And it starts with family. If you have a family that you can trust, then be with them. And yeah, so that's it for me. If you have an opinion or an idea about the things that we talked about, leave me a comment. I'm probably going to respond to every one of them because I don't have a single subscriber, so the chance of me responding to your comments are very high, if you know what I mean. And yeah, that's it. Stay safe.